Hello and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, President Buhari is set to address world leaders for the third time as the United Nations General Assembly of Heads of State and Government kicks off in New York tomorrow. The President of the 72nd UN General Assembly challenges leaders to focus more on the people of the world, North Korea and Rohingya crisis to top discussions. The Academic Staff Union of Universities announces conditional suspension of its one-month-old industrial action, asks lecturers to return to classes tomorrow. And North Korea defies the UN, insists on continuing with nuclear program despite sanctions by the world body.
On business news tonight, Director General of Nigeria's Debt Management Office reveals government's plan to float additional Eurobond and diaspora bond in the fourth quarter of 2017.
On sports news, Super Eagles Nigeria are through to the Waffle Cup of Nations semi-finals after a 2-0 win over Ghana in their last Group A clash.
And from Abuja, Chief of Army Staff insists military is not under pressure to leave Nigeria's southeast after clash with IPOB. Says only the federal government can declare group's leader Nnamdi Kanu wanted.
We begin with this cheery news for parents and students of government-owned tertiary institutions in Nigeria, as the Academic Staff Union of Universities has announced the suspension of its month-old industrial action. The president of ASUU, Prof Biodun Ogunyemi, who made the announcement in Abuja this evening, explained, however, that the suspension is conditional as it depends on whether the federal government will fulfill its own side of the agreement. ASUU's decision follows a reconciliation meeting with the federal government team, which lasted for several hours. Today's dialogue came after about 2 weeks, following the union's consultations with its various chapters on the terms of agreement earlier reached by both parties. To New York now in the United States, where the President is attending the 72nd session of the United Nations General Assembly. President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to address the Assembly tomorrow, that's Tuesday, September the 19th. He'll also participate in the debate on the theme, focusing on people, striving for peace and a decent life for all on a sustainable planet. He'll also be part of a bilateral meeting with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
President Muhammadu Buhari arrives New York at exactly 7 p.m. local time at JFK International Airport. He is immediately received by the permanent representative to Nigeria and the Minister of Foreign Affairs. The president, accompanied by his cabinet members, as well as governors of Zamfara, Ondo and Ebonyi, joins other heads of state to participate at the 72nd United Nations General Assembly. President Muhammadu Buhari is once again received at the Millennium Towers, where he is lodged, as expectations remain high.
This is a global platform. You don't have it bigger than this one. And for us as Nigerians, the fact that our president is here in person is a big achievement. We know that in the first 8 months of the year, the president was indisposed, and the fact that he's here today is a very big achievement for the country and for him as a person.
And we want the international community to still stay engaged and to discuss further strategies of how we're going to address global terrorism. That's one. We're particularly keen on the issues of the illicit flow of funds. That comes within our anti-corruption drive, and the UN General Assembly has already adopted a resolution on the illicit flow of financial flows.
The time has certainly come for the Nigerian government to relaunch negotiations at the UN General Assembly and hopefully tighten cooperation on all fronts, especially in the fight against corruption. From New York in the United States, Gloria Umezuke, Channel Television News.
And as world leaders arrive in New York for the UN General Assembly, the president of the 72nd Assembly, Miloslav Lajčák, is hopeful that nations will bury their narrow interests and focus more on the people. The debates in the Assembly are scheduled to begin tomorrow. Conflict prevention, migration and climate change talks are ongoing discussions, but North Korea's missile provocations and the Renege crisis are expected to dominate talks. Our correspondent Adeshwa Josh reports from New York.
It's the biggest diplomatic event of the year, and New York is on a security lockdown as the city welcomes over 100 world leaders to the UN headquarters. The theme for the 72nd UN General Assembly is focusing on people, striving for peace and a decent life for all on a sustainable planet. A reflection of the Assembly's 4 core areas of deliberations this year: UN reforms, conflict prevention, migration, and climate change. The president of the 72nd Assembly, Miroslav Lajcak, hopes his presidency will overcome narrow national interests and produce tangible benefits for people.
My 6 priorities covered all 3 pillars of the UN work, namely peace and security, development and human rights, and also the ongoing activities. So I mentioned already peace and prevention, I mentioned migration. Of course, there is a sustainable development agenda and the climate agenda, where we have to stay focused. There is an agenda of human rights and human dignity, and there is the agenda of modern UN, which means to support the reforms and also to adopt a budget that will allow us to work also for the future. But as I said, we must not be rigid in sticking to these priorities. Whenever there is a need to address an issue that has emerged and the UN is expected to deal with, we shall be ready to do so.
One such issue is North Korea's nuclear provocations, which has earned the recalcitrant country layers of sanctions designed to cripple its economy.
A highly big topic right now is on DPRK, North Korea. All the world leaders are probably going to make speeches on it during the general debate. The Security Council is having a meeting on it. There's going to be a representative from DPRK coming to talk about it. I think all the world leaders coming here will be such a good way for them to just talk it out and be united in how they feel and send a clear message to North Korea and Kim Jong-un.
Another pressing issue is the Rohingya crisis, which has sent thousands of Muslim Rohingyas fleeing from Myanmar, many of whom have become refugees in poor neighboring Bangladesh.
These are wars nobody is winning, everybody is losing.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres declared the Rohingyas are facing a catastrophic humanitarian situation. Myanmar's leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, has cancelled a trip to the General Assembly, avoiding potential confrontations by world leaders on the crisis. There will be bilateral meetings on Africa, on the crisis in South Sudan, Central African Republic, Mali, and most recently Southern Cameroon, among others.
This year's General Assembly is President Trump's first as the leader of a free nation. It's also Antonio Guterres' first as the United Nations Secretary General, Miroslav Lajcak's first as the President of the General Assembly. And it will be quite interesting to see how these three get along on the agenda. The debate is expected to be momentous, probably intense. We will be right here to cover it all from the United Nations headquarters in New York. Adeshwa Josh, Channels Television News.
Now back here in Nigeria, no fewer than 12 persons are feared killed when 2 suicide bombers attacked Mashalari village near Kondoga in Borno State, northeast Nigeria. Our correspondent reports that the State Emergency Management Agency has confirmed the attack, while at least 21 people were injured. Mashalari village is near Kondoga, one of the few villages on the outskirts of Maiduguri frequently attacked by Boko Haram insurgents.